and you're doing all your lettering directly onto the page as well. And I know, so this brings up a question about editing, right? So Dash Shaw, I remember he was giving a talk and said that you should never begin a comic without understanding how you're going to edit that comic, right? So every time you approach making a comic, understand, like, figure out in terms of process, figure out how you're going to edit it, because you can box yourself into a corner where suddenly you have to redraw everything if you want to add a simple thing, right? So, but I mean, you think about how a lot of people construct their page layouts and stuff. So if you need to add a couple panels somewhere, it throws off this domino effect, you know.
You should never have to add a couple panels. That's not how it works.
So talk to us about editing, but you've worked with editors, you've had to edit your own work, so how do you edit?
I mean, by the time you're drawing, I feel like everything should be kind of done. However, that's not always how it works. Sometimes people want you to do things, but that's during the pencil stage. And also computers are really great at helping you insert things, but I mean, but by the time I'm doing the page layout, it's like, I don't know, I haven't really had to do stuff like that.
So you've never gotten that obnoxious editor that's come at you and be like, can you just redraw like all these pages?
No, which is why my head has not exploded. I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not kind of for my head.
Yeah, a little.
So I mean, do you enjoy the editing process for yourself? Like when you're in your initial, I mean, I think about the kind of initial creative like explosion of stuff, and then you have to kind of edit down.
That's
which,
the fun part.
Yeah.
That and lettering and alignment. Yeah.
I like the whole process.
Yeah. No, I don't like emotions. I don't like having to post things on Facebook. In fact, I don't like having to be on Facebook at all. But what are you gonna do?
So that's an interesting balancing act of the memoirist who's putting their life out into the world, you know, and it seems like a very kind of exhibitionist like project. At the same time, you have a kind of, you know, in terms of social media and stuff like that, you feel more private.
Well, it's funny that I think that only really came out of was more from making comics that people suddenly started reading. I mean, when I would just make my zines and maybe up to 100 people who I would never meet would read them, like that was kind of great. And at that point, I'm not an introvert. I'm still an extrovert, but I enjoy going to parties more. I mean, it's. I think that I'm just coming off of a tour and I'm starting a new one, so I'm like kind of burnt out right now. So now I'm like, I just want to like sit at home and pet my cats and dogs and eat ice cream and watch Netflix. Like I don't want to go out. And it was I think I found a lot more joy in social media before. I was channeling all my stories into art. Yeah.
So do you feel like, I mean, we're of a generation that started making comics before social media and now we're in the midst of it, right? So how do you feel like the social media landscape and technologies affect the way we make work? Or you make work?
God, he's like tiring himself out.
He's just good.
How is it? Well, a lot, depending if you care on what social media thinks about you.
That's
Oh, wow. So I used to not read webcomics. I don't like sitting in front of a computer, right? It feels like work. I've had a lot of office jobs, so I've done a lot of, it just feels like work. So it's why I try not to do a lot of my comic stuff on the computer. But some of it is easier to do that way, so I do. But God, he's still going. But so after my first book, Kiss and Tell, came out, I knew I was with HarperCollins, I was with a big publisher, but I was like, Justin Bieber's book came out the same day as mine, and I knew they were not pulling money into my book. So I knew I was going to have to work my ass off. And I'd been looking on the internet, I'm like terrified. I'm like, okay, this is my one chance. This is my one chance, and if this doesn't work, then I'm screwed and I'll never be able to publish anything again. And it's not true. It's terrible. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I try? And I went into like full-blown studying mode about how to promote myself, and I'm like, what do I do? It was desperation. And one of the things that I ended up doing was making webcomics for Rumpus and other places. I was doing a lot of webcomics. Rumpus was monthly, and I had another bi-weekly one, and I had another one that was weekly. I mean, that's a lot. That's all I was doing, and just trying to get my name out there, trying to get like eyes on it, so that hopefully people would buy my books. And at first it was like, I mean, it was fight or flight. I had to do this stuff, but after a while, I got some pretty perverse pleasure out of just the immediacy of responses. Whereas, like, you put out a zine or a book, and maybe at the next year at the Zine Fest, someone will say, "Oh, I really like that," or I identify. Whereas, on the Rumpus, I would put it up, and within moments, people would be like, "Oh, yeah, that made me cry," or I'm like, and it's addictive. Sometimes it feels really awful, and sometimes it feels really good, but you're feeling emotion, like in front of the computer, which that's not been my experience. It was interesting, and it definitely, I think it kind of sped up my growth. And I don't think that it's something that I want to do anytime. I enjoy the experience of webcomics, but every time one comes out, like, all I can do is stare at my phone and like, okay, who's liking this? Who's online and isn't liking this?
Yeah,
Why has my husband not liked this yet?
Yeah, it's a job.
And then I send him a text. Did you see my comic? How come you haven't liked it yet? So this upside down. No, this is being recorded.
But these are all for. But then you also got to collect all that stuff and make a big, beautiful book.
Which I didn't see that.
And got an Eisner nomination, and hell yeah. So you can kind of have the best of both worlds with that stuff.
Well, as I was doing the webcomics for the Rumpus, I had definite plans to eventually make scenes out of them.
Yeah.
And the only reason Dragon's Breath came out as a book was because I was too lazy, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna put these in a zine. But I just didn't have time because I was too busy making comics.
Right.
I'm like, I should really collect them. And then I'm like, it's 40 pages, that's too big, and suddenly it's 200 pages, and that's when I'm like, I have to self-publish, but I was gonna do it.
So you got a book out of it because you were lazy? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I was really lucky that 2D Cloud offered to publish it though, because I was gonna self-publish it. Collections of stories, anthologies don't sell very well. Like, it's really hard to get a publisher for that. So they were gonna just distribute it for me after I self-published, and then they were like, I already had the mail for Turning Japanese. I'm like, well, we'll publish it. This will be a trial run for Turning Japanese, because they were going to be distributor, so it all worked out.
Yeah, amazing. So tell us a little bit about your history with publishers and publishing. You had a long stint doing Estrus Comics, where you were self-publishing, working the mini comic circuit, and then Kiss and Tell was picked up. Well, you go and tell us about your publishing.
I don't know how you tell it. So I was doing Estrus Comics for a very long time, starting 1997, and I quit in 2009, although I'm clearly still self-publishing. But not under Estrus, which was sort of a one-woman anthology, although sometimes I had other people in it too. It was a fun thing to do. I like to make zines and hand them out to people and get other people's zines like that. If I had ever thought, I would go to Zine Fest and I would get so nervous to be there, which is weird to me now. But it's like when I see other people feeling that way, I'm like, oh, I used to feel that way. It's so sweet. But if you told me then, as I was making these really, really personal stories and handing them out to people, that I would be publishing a book with HarperCollins and that many of the stories would be included, I probably would have stopped. That was not my intention. I did not want more than 50 people reading my comic. This was just my expression, but I didn't want my parents to read about my sex life and stuff.
I will say, by the way, that I taught, I teach comics at the California College of the Arts, and I taught Mari's Kiss and Tell book one semester, and the students were terrified. Then you came in and everybody fell in love with you, but you came in to speak, but it was
they were scared of me?
they were scared. They were scared of the material for sure.
What? Why?
Oh, because it's intense. Right? You had an intense early.
I don't know if you knew that,
if that's your bar. But there is this interesting. I mean, we've seen these kind of studies about how like people like they're getting rid of the idea of kind of eyewitness accounts in the courtroom, right? Because memory is so flawed and it's such a like narrative project. Like we make stories out of our memory. Do you think? I mean, you just literally ran into that when you were making this comic, like.
It happens all the time though, especially when you're involving other people in the stories. They'll remember it differently, and I kept a lot of journals, and recently for a project that I barely started, another memoir project, I was trying to figure out certain things. So I used the old journals that I kept, kind of just spark my memory and see what was going on. But they're pretty useless, actually. It's just like my feelings. And I'm like, I want facts here. Wait, what was I saying?
Memory as opposed to,
yeah, so we talk about, there are certain things with my friends, Mirabai Jones, and in my news book, I thought you needed to be work. Like, I didn't remember something, she didn't remember something, and I've been encouraging her to maybe make comics and maybe make her own like book to say, well, this is my version of the story, and oh my god, I would love it if she did that.
Yeah. That is kind of a Rashomon thing where it's like you can see it from both angles. It's really very
That
cool.
would be very cool.
Yeah.
She said.
It's so what do you think? I mean, what do you think of
What's important though, I think, is when you're reading a story. I mean, I don't care if you use like if I'm reading a character and you use meant toothpaste, but like they do really like it doesn't matter. Like what matters is that it resonates with me, that I find some kind of truth in the story. That doesn't sound like, oh look, I'm so great, or look, I'm so awful, or look, I'm sad. Like stop trying to make me feel things and just let me feel things. And I think that's what I'm going for with this story. Like I don't. Of course I'm trying to subtly manipulate the reader, but I'm trying to do it in a way that they feel like they did it to themselves.
That's very honest. Because there is this kind of, there's the relationship to the truth for memoir is still kind of an interesting and powerful thing where, like, I think of it as, if you walked into a room and you said, oh my god, this crazy thing just happened to me on my way over here, like, everyone kind of perks up. If you walk into a room and you say, oh my god, I just thought of this crazy thing that could have happened to me on the way here. So there is something about, like, truth, the knowing that something happened to someone else that is compelling as a reader.
You can usually tell when people are making it too. I mean, don't you think?
I think so. There's a ring of authenticity to things, but some people are, there was that Oprah Club guy, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think of this, like, potentially the future of memoir? I mean, like any genre, memoir changes. And with comics, I feel like there was this, we had Henry Kiyama making, the For Immigrant manga in the kind of early Japanese-American comics. This was actually, it was in San Francisco, the Japanese-American newspaper, and Henry Kiyama came over, he was an immigrant, he came over into the For Immigrant manga about him and his three friends arriving in San Francisco. And like it details like the earthquake in 1905, like the exclusion acts. Oh yeah, it's amazing. But it was like the first major memoir comic project model. And then you've got Harvey Picard kind of creating his kind of sad sack memoir stuff, and I think Allison also changed things with her more literary form. And you also the women's comics and Tips and Clicks folks. Where do you think memoir goes from here, and memoir comics?
I mean, my hope with comics in general is that they go all over the place, and we are kind of seeing that. The internet certainly helps people get their voices out there. I love that there are more marginalized groups of people who are getting their voices heard, and that's the current trend. I don't know if that's where it's going exactly. I think I'm a little cynical about it. But I would like to have more people have their voices out there. I would love to see, there are a lot of artists out there who might not have stories, who might pair with storytellers, and perhaps someone who's physically incapable of drawing or telling a story in a lot of ways. Like I would love to see just more voices, and I mean, because the human experience keeps changing, so you know, I guess it'll go in that direction. But I feel like memoir, for the most part, is dominated by white women.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that change. Not that they don't get to tell their stories, but that everyone else gets to as well.
It's interesting when I try to do the reading list for my classes, and I try to have gender parity in, for the most part, and it's overwhelmingly the best memoir is women, or white women, primarily, and overwhelmingly, like, they're making, you know, they're not doing a lot of other genres, right? So this is kind of like, if you want to do gender parity in your reading list, you often wind up with half memoir, basically.
I mean, I was told at one point by someone in the publishing industry, when I was asking about a male friend's memoir, like, oh, how can you get published? And they're like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Because they're not, because a lot of the readers are women. And I mean, there are, of course, memoirs by guys, but it's just harder.
Yeah. So, what do you think? It brings up an interesting question. Like, what do you think of your audience? Like, who do you think is reading your comics? How do you interact with them? Do you care who reads your comics? Do you think about it? Who's reading your comics? What do you want to read your comics?
It depends on the comics. You know, for Kiss and Tell, I assumed, you know, it was about like a young Native American girl and her sexual misadventures. So I thought I would be read by other young Native American girls who had sexual misadventures or wanted to, or you know, whatever. But and sometimes that was the case, but more often than not, I found that I had a lot of older white men reading it, but not for any creepy reasons, because I would grill them like, oh, well, what? You know, and a lot of it was like time and place, so like in the 80s, like, because there's a lot of like punk rock 80s stuff going on, and so they identified with that, but also on top of that, they were like, I wanted to know what was going through these women's heads like back then, you know, like you never got their side of the story because they were just like this mysterious. This was not the overwhelming consensus, but like, you know, people wanted to see the other side of the story or to see, you know, that perspective. And that was really cool. It completely took me off like by surprise.
Yeah. I think that's one of the power of you know, trying to kind of marginalized voices, like doing memoir is really, and I would say that, you know, generally the kind of best memoir that, at least for me, the comics memoir has been made by women or queer people also, and it tends to be kind of people who are haven't had voices before, and just the kind of like vibrancy and the kind of intensity of like someone speaking about their lives who hasn't been able to before is so like wow, you know.
It's also just great to get a different point of view.
Yeah,
always,
yeah.
You know, I just mean me. I get stuck in my little Facebook or internet bubble where I'm like, it's just a bunch of people agreeing with each other, you know, and then every so often a troll comes in. But it's actually nice to hear other people's point of view when it's not spoken in this really argumentative, combative way. I mean, I want to see other people's. I want to know why people would vote for Trump. Like I don't want to argue with someone who would vote for Trump, but I want to like see from their perspective without having a conversation. Like, why would you do that? Like, because that's just I don't understand.
Yeah.
So.
So memoir gets you into the head of someone else in a way that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to just I don't know, but I also especially like reading books where the protagonist isn't someone I want to be friends with. Like and I think that's I don't know, that can be sticky because like a lot of people I really respect are like, well, if I don't like the main character, I don't want to read the book. Well, so you only want to know people you like? Like that's not what the world is like. I don't know. But I'm really interested in seeing the perspectives of people who I don't like because maybe that will give me compassion and maybe I'll like them. Like, there's so many things that reading can do, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the existential dread. I mean, everyone, I think everyone gets it. It's, you know, it's also like right after you come out with a book, you're like, this is so good. I'm touching my book, and then you're like, my life is awful.
It's yeah. I mean, yeah. Budget that into your sense of mental health before you go into this stuff. There's another question.
Yeah. So I came across this piece of advice for beginning artists saying that like you can't fucking wait around for your muse to show up to make comics. Like you gotta just like power through it. Like even if you don't feel like it, like this is what you're trying to do now. So I do it because it makes me feel better about like what I'm talking about. And since a lot of your work is so deeply personal, I was wondering how, like, do you just like, is that how like a professional like comic artist gets done? Like, just like do it every day to get inspired, or is it like, oh, I have to?
Yeah, I'm working on a project, but when you're not into comics, like doing a comic and you have other things you could be doing, I would just do those other things until you feel like doing comics. Like, I mean, that is kind of what sucks about when you're pushing the comic artist is like you can't stop because like you have deadlines and people expect things from you. But like I was doing this for a long time before I had any deadlines or anyone expecting anything from me. And I didn't make the best comics out of it because I was still learning, but like I was probably happier like overall because like there would be gaps, like huge gaps when I would stop doing comics. But you know, I did other things that perhaps later I would write comics about, or you know, or I was also in the painting and photography and writing and stuff. Like I don't know, when people say just power through it when you don't have to, I don't see why. Like there's so many ways to tell the story, so if you really feel like telling the story or expressing anything, like there's so many ways to do that. Like it doesn't have to be fun. In fact, like if you can do it by painting, that might be more good. You know, expression of it.
It's also, at least for me, like having multiple projects going. So like if I get frustrated with comics, and be like, oh, I can pick out this illustration I have to do for someone, you know, and that's fun, and like, yay, you know.
Also,
and then,
great for the existential threat is when you have multiple things going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another question.
Not just comics. Like I don't know. Like that seems like kind of bullying advice. I don't know where you got that. But you don't have to make comics if you don't want to. I wanted to do something.
It was more like if this is truly like your goal to like become a good comic artist, then like you can't just wait around to like feel inspired.
I mean, you should definitely draw writing if you want to be good. I don't know, writing uninspired stories is funny.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I have a couple kind of final questions so at least for me, when sometimes I see people who have been very successful and kind of doing what they want to do, and it's really amazing. And then I take a little perverse thrill in knowing like what keeps them up at night or what makes them like insecure or whatever. So what keeps you up at night?
Recently, Donald Trump.
Okay.
There was a point where I realized, oh, this could actually happen because I was positive that George W. Bush could not be president, and people would say, oh no, it could happen. I'm like, oh, you're ridiculous. All those ridiculous things that come out of his mouth, and then it happened, and then the second time, I'm like, well, it's not gonna happen again. The same thing happened the first time. So yeah, there were a couple nights recently, most recently, where that was there.
Okay. What brings you joy in society? Lettering. Yes.
My dogs and cats, my husband, keeping things clean. Seriously, so I have 6 animals. I have 4 cats and 2 dogs, which means I'm picking up 12 pieces of poop. Unless my husband's helping me, which he sometimes does. But he cooks, so I pick up the poop, 12 pieces of poop for me.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's like, you know, that's why I don't have carpal tunnel for drawing. I'm stopping every time I use the dogs. I have to get to it before the dogs do.
I have one mistake, and it poops like once every couple weeks. So, another quick question. So, what would your like a younger self from like Distant Tower or from what would she think about who you are now? Should she be excited or should she?
I don't know. It depends on how much of my inner life she sees. If she's like, oh, look at all these books you have, she'd be like, yeah, you did it. If she looked at my taxes at the end of the year, she'd be like, what?
That's a very fair answer.
She'd be like, hey, hot husband, good job.
Yeah.
Or she'd be like, well, why are you married? What's the point of that?
Yeah.
I wanna do with the.
Harry Armpits forever.
Like it.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, Mario.
He is such a rock star. He came here, he's about to leave the country for 4 months, and yet he came here to do this with his house in disarray and.
I can't stand this one up.
Oh my
Okay.
God. I can't believe you're here.
And Marty's telling her work in the power.